All right, so I call this meeting to order at 7:06. Does anyone have any? Okay, before we do approve the agenda, y'all trying to swear? Well, Tyra's currently trying to log on, like she's having trouble with the link. So give me a second, because is that the first thing you want to do, Jessica?
Yeah, you can do that first so that she can be a voting member for all your other action items. Oh, I see her now in the attendees, so I'll promote her.
Okay, awesome.
And I already promoted our Chief Justice.
Okay, awesome. All right, hold on, give me a second. So, okay, awesome. All right, so I guess the first thing we'll be doing is swearing in the new transfer student representative. So let's see, Tyra, and we have the Chief Justice here. Mayant, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Hey, good to see you, by the way.
Absolutely. Good to see you as well. Glad to be here. Okay, so without any further ado, I guess, congratulations and welcome to USAC. Really excited to see what you can do over the coming 2 quarters, the rest of the year. So without any further delay, we can just get right into the swearing in. So Officer-elect, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name.
I, Tyra Cobbs,
Do hereby solemnly swear that I will,
do hereby solemnly swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
support the Constitution and the bylaws
support the Constitution and the bylaws
of the Undergraduate Students Association of UCLA,
for the Undergraduate Students Association for UCLA,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
promote, maintain, and extend
promote, maintain, and extend
the worth, value, and name
the worth, value, and name
of the University of California.
of the University of California.
Okay, congratulations. That's all from me, and you're a fully fledged member.
Thank you, and so sorry, everybody. TLC had its first meeting today, and so I wanted to show my face as the new TSR.
Awesome. Hey, congrats, Tyra. That was pretty official. I forgot about the oath and stuff. That's pretty cool. All right. So now we'll get straight into the agenda. Once again, congratulations, Tyra. Welcome to your first council meeting. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to message one of us, or you can just ask it. I'll ask it, live. We'll help you out. Okay. All right. So does anyone have any? First off, is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes they would like to make to the agenda? Daniela.
Hi, can we please strike ASRF this week? Thank you.
Devon.
Can you check back, please?
Josh.
Hi, can we please strike capital contingency funding, please? Thanks.
Alicia.
I was wondering if we could table the discussion on in-person meetings to next week, just because me and Eliana worked on a resolution and I feel like it would relate to that, but we weren't able to submit it by 5 p.m. on Friday. But I know that you initiated that, so whatever you feel is best works too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a discussion, so it's something that when we get to that point, we can talk about it, if that's cool with you.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Phoebe.
Can we strike TJF from the agenda?
And then Josh. Josh, is that a new hand? Okay, awesome. All right, going once, going twice. Is there anything else anyone would like to add or take away from the agenda? Okay, can we get a motion?
I move to approve the agenda for this week.
I'll second.
All right, Daniela motions, Keon seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and by a vote of 14-0, the motion passes and the agenda for this week is approved. Okay, next up, we have the minutes from last week. So I hope council members were able to review the minutes from last week. If there is any changes, questions, concerns, or clarifications, could you please raise your hand? Juan and Kian, I see you still have, are those new hands? Okay. All right, if no one has any questions, concerns, or clarifications, can we get a motion? Anybody, somebody?
I move to approve the minutes from last week's meeting.
I second.
All right, Daniela motions, 1 second. All in favor, please raise your hand. See, we're missing one hand right now. All right, can everyone lower their hands? Wait, Anna, was that a vote for yes or what?
That was a vote for yes. Sorry, I was delayed.
Okay, that's fine. All right, well, then by a vote of 14-0, the minutes from last week's meeting are approved. All right, now we'll open the floor for public comment. Public comment is a time for individuals from the association to come to council and express any questions, concerns, or comments they may have regarding any issues or anything. So if you would like to be promoted for public comment, please raise your hand so that we can promote you and hear you out. So first up, we have Clara.
Hello, me, Clara, as CalPERC chapter chair. It's my quick weekly update. Right now, CalPERC is doing our pledge fundraising drive. We just started yesterday. And a super quick reminder, we're funded by thousands of students who opt into a $10 per quarter activities fee to be added onto their tuition. We work really hard each quarter to sign up 10% of the UCLA undergrad population. And so far, in the past 2 days, we've signed up over 280 new members, which is really exciting. And during our pledge drive, we build up our membership base. This quarter, we're hoping to sign up 1,200 new members to build a lot of people power. And then we use all of this support to talk to elected officials in upcoming lobby days. So we're going to be going to Sacramento for our lobby day later this quarter. And like with all of the other CalPERC chapters across the state as well. And also we're going to be going back for Ocean State later in the spring because we're currently working on an ocean conservation campaign. And we're also participating in a federal lobby day in Washington, D.C. with the statewide student perks program. And we're going to do a roundtable with people from the White House, which is really exciting. So we're super excited for our new volunteers to build up all of this support, tons of student power over the next couple of weeks. So we can do all these cool things. But yeah, that's a little bit about what we're doing right now. Thank you so much for listening and have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you so much, Clara. Clara's like our 16th council member. All right, next up we have Anna.
Hi guys, nice to see all y'all again. I am coming here to talk today, following up with an email I sent you guys last week. Basically, just to recap for you guys, Elections Board has partnered or contracted with Bruin Media Group. And basically they're offering a lot of services that we did not have at our disposal last year as we were phasing out of COVID. So one idea we have is to swing by your guys' office hours, whether that be in person in your office or sometime on Zoom. And we're going to have someone from Bruin Media Group film you responding to the questions in the email. It's super quick. It's going to be like 5 minutes, but basically they're going to edit that for us and it's going to go on TikTok. It's going to go on Instagram Reels. It's going to be used like in further like announcements and info sessions and stuff. So just following up with you guys there. It was sent out last week, but I'll send out another email tonight just following up with you guys. if you could reply to that email and let me know your office hours and locations and times, and I will pass that along. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you for coming. All right, is there anyone else that would like to be promoted for public comment? Okay. If not, then I'll be closing public comment at 7:17. Okay, next up, we have funding, contingency programming. Josh.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a great week 4 so far. This week, we've had a total contingency request of $32,539.59, which is in the Google Drive, and we recommend an allocation of $16,300 flat for 32 non-USAC entity-related events. The discrepancy here basically comes down to a lot of student groups. This week, we're actually applying for incentives, so raffles, things along those lines, which aren't funded per our bylaws. And then also some student groups applying for retreat guidelines, which are capped for our, for our funding organization. But we always tell them to put, all your needs out, and we'll figure out the rest. So that's kind of why that discrepancy is there. Happy to go into any more detail if need be, and putting that in the chat right now as well.
All right, does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding contingency programming? All right, if not, can we get a motion?
Move to approve contingency programming.
I second. Eliana motions, Keon second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and by a vote of 14 to 0, the motion passes, and contingency programming for this week is approved. Next up, we have SFS allocations. Juan.
Hi, y'all. So for this week, we received 6 applications for funding for SFS. We recommend the approval of $6,725 for 1 CSC affiliated org and one CSC affiliated org. I misspelled that. And 5 non-CSC affiliated orgs, total of 6.
Thank you. Okay, there we go. All right, this is a consent item, so if there's no objections, then it is approved. Next up, we have SWC programming fund allocations. Anna?
Hi all. So this week, the SWC programming fund allocated $1,106.98 to non-SWC groups. And I'll drop that in the chat.
Thank you. All right. If no one has any questions, concerns, or comments about that, then this is a consent item and it is approved. Next up, we have AAC travel mini grant allocations. Daniela?
Yes, hello everybody. So this week from TGMF, we allocated $942.03 to one non-USAC entity, and I will put that in the chat as well.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments about AAC travel mini grant allocations? If not, it is a consent item and it is approved. Next up, we have ARC allocations. Alicia?
Alicia, you just sent that to me.
All right, I'll read this in the chat. So Alicia's mic isn't working. For this week, her office approved funding for 4 non-USAC groups, and for 1 USAC group, it was a total of $9,700 $16.07. This is a consent item. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this? If not, then it is approved. All right, next up, we'll be going into special presentations. Have a very special person with us here tonight, Roy from ASUCLA. So hey, take it away, Roy.
Well, thank you, Carl, and good evening, council. So there's a few things that we want to discuss, some of which I think we're all anxious to get to, which is the exciting part of the year in which surplus is identified, which, you know, always is something that has great promise in it. But first, Linda and I, the SGA manager, want to just talk a bit about support of council, your offices, the current state of our accounting systems, and the degree where we are on our path to recovery. Again, you know, as when I first came to council, I think I described wanting to try and get on and provide some continuity and get on with, you know, healing some of the things that had gone wrong. That, of course, is a difficult task. And one of the things that is indicative of progress is once we had to straighten out substantial numbers of things that really relate to last year before we could get to surplus, because surplus, when we speak about that, is something that really comes from the prior fiscal year and crosses over the fiscal year boundary into your year. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to be anxious to get on with is all the stuff about the systems and methods to support your current council and all your current activity. But as a sign of progress, that we've really knocked off a lot of the really substantial progress on problems that existed last year, is that we're able to present surplus at this point, because we can't present that until we've gotten to a very highly resolved point relative to last year. So I'm not sure you've all met her, but I think it's really important to meet her. Linda Schrader is our SGA manager. She has come to us from Occidental College, where she supported student groups and student activity in that role there. She's certainly come into a much, you know, larger scale university. So I think some of the scale of what we're doing is impressive. But Linda is very systems and methodology oriented. So I think she's got a lot that she would like to share. So let me hand it over to Linda to talk a little bit about the progress she's made in her approach.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay, perfect. Thumbs up. I am going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Can you all see that? It's my PowerPoint. All right. I am, hold on. Trying to see if I could get you all squared away here. As Roy mentioned, thank you so much for inviting me today. As Roy mentioned, I come from my previous institution, which was Occidental College. I was the associate director and finance manager for their AS for the last 8 years. And prior to that, I was 2 years in the financial aid office. And so I'm super excited to be here. I can actually take a little bit of a breather now, as Roy has mentioned. The audit has, excuse my language, but kicked my butt. So, you know, I was hired, and I was like, ooh, UCLA, well, how great. At my previous institution, my closing of the books was June 30th. So did not realize that your books are closing on July 31st. And I came on board on August 29th thinking, hey, books are closed, let's go. So yeah, that didn't happen. So I came on board, I was tasked to basically recreate 7 months worth of books that weren't done. So we had my predecessor that went on to bigger and better in January, and then we had another staff member leave in January. And then another one retired in May, which is, I will say I'm super excited to hear that there's a lot of people that really like, ASUCLA and, what the term has been called lifers. And, many people have been here for a very long time. So I'm excited about that. But also, just kind of where the office was when I stepped in on August 29th. And so in order to start the audit, I had to go and pay all the payables. And that is one of the roles of SGA. And we also have a fiduciary of responsibility. We are a nonprofit and we have nonprofit status. And so I'm the one that took on the job to step into this role to get everyone caught up. So let's start. I'm Linda Schrader. I report to Roy. I'm super excited with student government accounting. We are slowly but surely growing. Some of the roles of the SGA office is one, to pay the requisitions to ensure fiscal responsibility, proper accounting and procedures, especially going through with the audit currently, and what they look for and what auditors have been asking for. And I've had to search low and high in the office, and so far so good. Knock on wood. Hopefully they're not going to ask for any more things, but it seems like every week they're asking for another document. And also to steward, SGA resources effectively with all of our funding groups and funding directors and funding chairs. And also to support students in activities sponsored by USAC. And from my previous institution, I worked very closely with what's equivalent over here as your finance chairs and your finance directors. And I've always found that collaboration between my office and the student groups is that the process of getting money, or how the process of, expediting money works a lot smoother when we work together. And that's always been how my offices have operated. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And I'll mention that a little bit down the line. Some of the updates. So as I mentioned, 100% staff turnover since January. I started on August 29th. I had to not only do undergrad, but also graduates audit books and closing those. So I came in, I started the audit at the same time, as well as processing all the backlog of the requisitions. That was a pretty big task. We pretty much cleared off most of the backlog if they had the proper documentation and the signatures pretty much by the end of September. And so the audit is still ongoing. As of last Friday, I was still sending over documents from the auditors, and it is what it is. 7 months of a skeleton office, but we're making a lot of headways. If you have not come up to Kirkhoff on the 3rd floor, you're going to notice that the office has been cleaned and reorganized a little bit. There's some stuff that you can actually walk in there. So, our doors are always open, and it's looking a little bit more friendly. I am not going to lie. When I stepped in there, there were piles of paper, and I had to look behind some piles to say hello to the temp. And so now I can actually say you can actually see the desktops. You can see where everything is kind of organized, and we're starting to make some momentum. Currently, the backlog is probably about December. I know like tomorrow, we've already have over 80 checks that we're going to be running this week. Last week it was 76. And so every week it just keeps growing. Let's see. So my understanding is when I came on board, requisitions were taking 8 to 10 weeks to process. And I'm happy to say that the current turnaround time is about 10 days or 2 weeks with the proper documentation and signatures. So that's the only time that there would be a backlog of your rec, is if I don't have, and So 4 categories. If we're missing a receipt, if we don't have a statement, or we don't have the correct signatures, and if your rec needs a W-9 or an engagement agreement, then it will be held up and you will be emailed to get that into us so that we can process. If you can turn in your requisition by Tuesday, then typically it'll make what we call the Thursday run, and you'll be paid by Friday. If it's received after Tuesday, then you'll receive it after the next Friday, because checks are signed once a week, and that's not my rule. So we have to actually take it across the way, and someone else has to sign it. And so check runs are once a week in that regard. And depending on what the situation is, we might be able to, if it's an emergency, we might be able to do some pull there. Recently hired our 4th student accounting assistant and working on filling a permanent position that is still vacant. So my office is still running a little bit on a skeleton crew, and we're implementing processes within my office to streamline the requisition process. So I'm going to emphasize this again because it seems like it's been helping every time I'm able to speak to a student about what proper documentation is needed. The results have been pretty quick. So proper documentation is needed, especially going through this compliance. They've asked me a lot of questions that, first of all, I did not know because I was not here, but I was able to find the answers just based on the documentation that has been kept previously. So that's good. So I need to maintain that for, ensuring fiscal responsibility and audit compliances. And I'm held to, your bylaws, the university bylaws, state and federal bylaws. And when auditors are asking questions, I need to be able to answer those questions. So it's not because Linda likes paperwork, it's because the paperwork is going to come in handy. So typical documentation when you are submitting your requisition, original itemized receipts and invoices. And this year, we've made some concessions that I've been able to get approved from other people that are also looking at our requisitions. And again, I'm going to be repeating this a lot to student orgs when they come through with the requisitions. If you have a receipt, so let's say it's a Ralph's receipt, a grocery receipt, any sort of receipt, please write your name on there in the event or the group, and then take a picture of that to upload with the requisition. Do not upload your receipt and then try to Adobe it afterwards. I want to see it written on the receipt, and then that way it makes the process go a little bit faster. Now, if you spent over $50 and you used your debit card or credit card, I need to see the bank statement or the credit card statement with just that screenshot. I don't need to see all 8 pages and all your other activities on there. So just a screenshot that matches your receipt. And then signatures are super important. Most of it is signed by Josh Prentice and Lucy, and they've done a really great job of getting that all signed over to us so that we can easily process. But also, like if there's, another chairperson that needs to sign, but also very important if you're the preparer also to sign. Now, if your requisition is to pay like an artist, W-9s and contracts or engagement agreements also need to be attached. And the only caveat with that is that the W-9 has to match what the contracts say who the payable is. Then that way, and that's how we have to, that's how we cut the checks. And that's not my rule, that's a federal rule. So when you're going through the contract portion of it, that's super, super important. And that's usually what holds things up. Now I've changed the name of Problem Recs to Missing Docs, which is really what it is. And we are very diligently catching up on a lot of the Missing Docs Excel spreadsheet, and we've been getting a lot more responses to it. So I think that's why our weekly runs have been getting bigger and bigger. I anticipate that it's only going to get bigger until spring, just because spring is a super busy time. Now, let's see, for future planning, as I said, when I walked into SGA for the first time, I had to say hello to the temp over the piles. So I understand that. That was one of the first things I had asked about was capital improvement. And we are on the timeline with furniture and repairs and paint. So unfortunately, with the heavy rains we've had recently, I was told that this is the first time that SGA has leaked. So someone else is coming from we have an outside contractor coming to fix that before we can paint. And before we can paint, and then hopefully furniture will be coming in. So yes, I want to make it student centric, front facing, and more friendly for everyone to come through. Currently, we've been in normally it's 9 to 5, but we say 10 to 5 because we take the morning to kind of debrief with one another. But we're here. We're not hybrid. And so if you want to meet outside of the timeframes, I've been super flexible with students that have emailed, and we can set up a Zoom if it's outside the normal hours that we're here. Happy to do so with that. And also, let's see, we're hiring new staff to fill the departures. Also have purchased Aplos, which is a software system that is going to replace the one that we're currently using, and hopefully it'll speed things up as well. I'm super excited about that one. So some of the modernizations. Our version of the electronic deposits is via PayPal, and I'm going to be working with that across the bridge where it's pending approval. And so far the green light has been for reimbursements that are $500 and under. And this is where I'm asking a lot of everybody's help. If you are submitting a requisition, please make sure you use your UCLA email address, because that is the way we will be able to pay you via PayPal. If you currently have a PayPal account and it's a different email, you can go in and add your UCLA email address as well. If it's your first time getting reimbursed with PayPal with me, I will email you the first time to get confirmation that if it's okay. And if it is, I will go ahead and reimburse you via PayPal. And then let's say you have a requisition down the line, I will go ahead and reimburse you via PayPal if we've already done that, and if it's under $500. So I'll ask a one-time confirmation to see if it's okay. And then after that, any other requisitions that were $500 and under will be paid via PayPal. Always looking for ways to streamline the reimbursement process. And that's kind of an ongoing thing. And one-on-one meetings with the finance chairs or fund directors. Like I said, in my previous institution, I've worked with pretty much all of the orgs, what we call treasurers or finance chairs, and I did all the training with them. And I just find that with that collaboration with all of the finance chairs and fund directors, it just makes the process so much more easier. I hate for students to be out, crazy amounts of money, or, taking 10 weeks to get a reimbursement, because to me, that's just ridiculous. That's me in a nutshell. So let's see. Questions? I can. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't tell if anyone's raising their hands.
Oh yeah, no problem. Does anyone have any questions for SGA while we have them here?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much. I was just gonna ask if there's anything you'd like USAC to do to support you and help us all the work you're doing. I have a whole big discussion scheduled at the end of USAC meeting. We just want to see if there is anything in this area first.
Why don't you just swing on by? I'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one, and we can kind of brainstorm on things that you want to do, how we can do it. Yeah, swing on by.
Thanks, appreciate it. Bye. So much. Great work.
Thank you. Anna?
Hi, Linda. Thanks for coming tonight.
Hello. Oh, thanks for inviting.
I just want to check in and see, when do you believe surplus will be available for us to start working with?
Thank you for asking, Anna.
Today.
It's a great segue. Yeah,
Of
today.
course.
Woo!
Oh, yay!
Roy,
Exciting.
present that after I answer all the questions.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we're
perfect.
gonna-
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's my question.
Lori?
Hey, Linda, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. So previous to your arrival, problem recs would just sit in a pile. What is the process for problem recs so students know their rec is incomplete and they need to do something?
Lori, we are calling them missing documents. No, we've worked through a lot of the missing documents pile. We are also, by the end of the week, where I believe we had a problem recs Excel spreadsheet that they can check. We're updating that as well, and we're going to get that all squared away by the end of the week. We're updating that as well. We're cleaning that up because I know a lot of that has been cleared. So, but even if there is an issue, please reach out. Please come in. Please. A lot of times it's like I said, it's a missing doc. It's either a statement, a receipt, or signature. And we have our students emailing and checking emails every day to kind of clear out that log. Any other questions? Oh, Giovanna.
Hi, I'm just asking this as well. It was in the chat, but could we possibly get a copy of these slides? I think it would be good for, at least for me, to share with my directors, and then just to like have updated like ways of informing for like requisitions and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if I could also throw in, I mean, if any of your offices, you're referring to your directors, I mean, a lot of times that's where the kind of rubber meets the road on a lot of this activity. I mean, I think we'd be happy to make a presentation to your directors, come to a director group, and especially those that have, a lot of recs or a lot of activity or need the clarification, because there's nothing that works better than sort of being able to be present and hear people's questions and follow other people are understanding or we're being clear. So, we'd be happy to attend or have you come or bring your crew to Linda's office, and if that helps.
Any more questions? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, so I think so. There's two things that we also, so thank you, Linda, and thank you for your perseverance. I mean, as Linda's sort of describing for us all, it has been quite a difficulty working through all of these things. The audit, just so you'll know, the audit is really important, partly because just as students and as council members, for you to know that there are other eyes aside from our eyes on your fee money. So when we get through the audit, that's the process of an outside external auditor looking at the books, probing for all the questions and making sure that the expenditures are correct, that all the documents and all of everything is in order. So it's also part of the satisfying the community's need to know that there's eyes on our books. So that's what an audit really represents, is external auditor looking over our books. So it's not just me and Linda and our finance director here at ASUCLA. It's external auditors. But again, just to reemphasize the other thing about, please come by the office. Please, bring your chief of staff or anybody who could benefit by hearing this stuff directly, because it's not always that easy for you to convey to your staff, all of the information. Hopefully, maybe we can get that enough clarity in sharing the PowerPoint, but sometimes it really helps to just come or do a Zoom meeting. We can Zoom into the meeting, because I know we're still somewhat cautious about getting people all into the same space. So all those things are on the table. Again, what we really want to do is get, the past is almost completely behind us now. There'll be a couple things that grab our attention, but we're mostly focused on now the present systems, the present needs, all of your offices, and all the groups that you're funding, through your funding bodies and your programs. So moving from that, there's two other things then I want to go into. I want to share with you the current state of your endowment, your USAC student programming endowment, and your surplus. I think that Jessica may have gotten, did I get you that? Okay. So, you may not be familiar with this almost, barely. I know a number of you have heard of your endowment. So a number of years ago, a mechanism was identified. So when we get to the surplus, the thing with surplus is surplus from year to year can vary very broadly. What you're going to see when we get to your surplus in just a few minutes is really what is kind of historically a large amount of surplus, probably really reflecting the pandemic and the impact it has on activities on campus and the ability to go into our communities or all the things that we do. But that's always been true to some degree, even in the past, that there'd be years with larger surpluses and smaller surpluses. So the endowment was developed by some of your predecessors in 2013 to deal with how surplus varies broadly from year to year. And what would happen, what they were trying to solve when they invented the idea of the endowment, is that some years there'd be a lot of surplus, so then there would be a lot of extra money in the funding bodies, and then the next year there'd be a lower surplus, quite a bit lower, and there wouldn't be that much money in your funding bodies. And the student community, the student group community, really couldn't understand why it would vary so widely from year to year. And they would come to the council and sort of say, please do not cut our funding, you shouldn't cut our funding, not really understanding that the council was not acting to cut the funding, but there was simply less money residually from the previous year, which they really had nothing to do with, because surplus, again, doesn't even come from your year, it comes from last year. So the endowment idea was in a heavy surplus year to take the top off and send it to an endowment, which would earn money and send money back every year to council to put into your programming funds, so that it would stabilize programming funds over time and not make them swing wildly from year to year. That's the concept of your endowment. Now, I think, it doesn't help that, last year was, a crisis year and not, a pandemic year. And I don't believe that we drew any of the expendable payout from the endowment. So there's a lot of available endowment this year, though at the same time, you have a really large surplus this year. So, the endowment money can help you in low surplus years. This year, you don't need that much help, as you'll see in a minute. So just to look at your endowment, the opening market value on September 30th was $560,000. And then it earns money and it grows to $658,000. You have an available, so endowment normally is meant to be there, what they call in perpetuity. So it's student funds that funded this in the past, and now it just earns money, but through investment, and returns money to support the purpose of the endowment, which is student programming. So you have $98,000 that would identify as spendable. And then let's go down further. You want to switch to the other one? Yeah, and go down a bit further. Well, so at the end of this, I may have grabbed the wrong one, as I realized I hadn't sent it to Jessica, and send you the updated one, because this one I think is a prior period. I have a later one that is, I have in my hand, and I could show you by coming close enough. What you have is a payout this year of $24,690, which is what they call usually is an annual payout. And you have an accumulated spendable balance of $92,000. So you could draw out the $92,000 and use it. And again, this can only fund student programming. So not necessarily council activity, but student groups that apply to council for funding. So it really applies to BOD programming fund and to contingency fund. So this is money that backs up the contingency fund and the programming fund. So again, we'll come back to that as a decision point. You could not draw any of your money out and leave it in your endowment to grow further, or you could draw out this year's payout of $24,690, or you could take the full available balance for spending, which is $92,000. Okay. Now that just kind of sets up the other thing that we want to talk about, which is your surplus. So if you want to bring that up, Jessica. So surplus, so the way the surplus analysis, like as I said, you know, we couldn't really get to the point we had surplus until we finished and the auditors had gone through the books from last year, because surplus represents money unexpended last year for the purposes that it was intended. And, you know, though the best efforts, you know, by that group to expend their available funds, inevitably there's money that comes over. So we start by talking about the total revenue, right? So you'll see your total revenue coming through your bank account. And again, one thing to be clear about is USA has its own bank account. So it's not a university account. It's not university. It's not in a university bank. This is the USA bank. And also GSA has a separate bank account. So your money is always in your bank account and it never, you know, it's not drawn off into any other uses. Your expenses though were 9.1 million. So we usually will have something we call non-recurrent out of period expenses, usually somewhat minor. You see those listed, leaving, you know, an initial surplus of 2.3 million. Let's go further. So then there's two big categories of surplus. There's restricted surplus, which is either, you know, one form of it can be university support, which is perhaps monies that come over to support specific programs, and it's sort of restricted to that program. It's like a donor given money for a purpose, so you can't repurpose it to other things. You can have other income that can be box office ticket sales if you have any. That's the kind of thing that is prior year other income. One kind of thing, so you see there's TGIF surplus. So TGIF is a program that can fund a capital project. So it could, like there's solar panels on Ackerman Union that about 8 or 9 years ago, some student groups proposed putting solar panels on Ackerman Union. And that kind of program you can't do within a year. It takes too long. You have to fund it. You have to get bids. You have to get construction processes. It takes more than a year. So TGIF surplus carries over different years. You also, as another example, have a surplus that is tied to transportation funds in CSC. You see those listed. And then you see you had last year given a somewhat substantial surplus for the Black Ruin Resource Center that is still available. There's $230,000 of that earmarked surplus from last year. So that's a form of surplus. It's earmarked for the use as described by the council motion for BBRC. So if we go down a little further, there's a technical piece of money we won't go into because you have a reserve against losses, which is part of your bylaws, so that we keep at a certain level. So we added a little money to that for protection. And then you have a surplus available for allocation, which is really the number that you guys are most anxious to get to the point of hearing. As you can see, that's a very substantial piece of money. It's $900,000. Now, your bylaws are going to say that the first thing that's supposed to occur, and this is part of the mechanism to stabilize surplus that fluctuates wildly. So this is a year in which, right, you'd fluctuate really high. If you put all that money into programming funds, then next year it's not likely to be that high, and that council's, you know, going to have people going, what happened to all these budgets? You cut them. So the first thing that happens is 150,000 is the first piece that the bylaws say goes into this formula that says 45% to USA BOD programming funds, 67,500. You have contingency gets 64,500, which I know Josh Prentice has been waiting for it to arrive. And then also, this is the only fund that funds your capital contingency for things you need for your offices if you have an office in Kirkhoff Hall. So that can be furniture, it can be computers, it can be whatever assets help your offices to operate. So usually that 150 goes into that formula, leaving a remaining surplus for you to determine how to utilize of $746,582. So, you know, that's the big number you want to understand. What I think we would now encourage you to do is to, and it's important to me to make sure that you all hear the number at the same time so that people don't kind of get an inside track as to developing their proposal. Because what I would say you guys are going to do now is start to conceive programs for the benefit of your communities or the UCLA community, student community, undergraduate community writ large, and sort of compete with each other and lobby each other for what the best usage of your surplus, is or would be. So you all see the number kind of at the same time. What your bylaws would guide you to consider doing is taking some significant piece of that and sending it to your endowment to sort of safeguard it for future years. Again, if your endowment has a payout this year of $25,000, if you put in another couple $100,000, then every year you're going to get $32,000, not $24,000. Every year forever, $32,000 would be coming back, not from student fees, but from earnings on your investment. So that's just kind of how that works. So that's the basic overview. I mean, I know that we're going to deal a lot more with this, and I can entertain any questions for clarification that you have, and I think that there will be more discussion amongst yourselves. I think Carl may want to say a few words. I was talking with him a little bit earlier about these numbers that were coming. So.
Yeah, so we'll start with some of the questions that council members may have. Does anyone? I know this is a lot to digest. I know it's a lot of numbers, but yeah, I see some hands raised. So we'll go with.
Yeah, just a quick question. So according to our bylaws, how do we split up this money? Is it that each person comes with a request and then we vote on it? How does that work on past years?
In past years, what you've done is precisely that you guys, identify a time frame. You're probably going to make potentially most of a meeting, because I mean, this can, especially with such a large surplus, an opportunity to put your ideas forward to each other. Try to convince each other of the wisdom of whatever usage, and work that out. So it's exactly that. Conceive your ideas, and it's for you guys to decide. There's nobody else to decide this. It is this council.
Thank you.
Giovanna?
Yeah, I had a question. So like, I'm just thinking specifically for Bruin Bash, like I won't be here next year, but we would probably be using surplus to pay off some bills from last year's, but is it also possible, rather than like reverting to the system of applying for surplus after the event has happened, to apply for surplus now, and like, let's say we have an artist or something and we could just pay for it this year, even though the event is technically like the next fiscal year?
Well, that's an interesting idea. I will say that originally Bruin Bash was primarily paid, before there was a Bruin Bash fee, through surplus funds, almost 85%. In that earlier iteration, so in the fall, I would have been able to tell you, before school started, I would have been able to come to council and say, look, I know that there is no way on earth that the surplus will be less than $100,000. And if you want to, you could spend up to $100,000 now, not saying spend $100,000. And from that, council would make a decision often to allocate $50,000 or $60,000, back in the day when, whenever that was, at least 8, 9, 10 years ago, towards Bruin Bash. And that would be the main funding. Now, what you're saying now, it kind of reflects that the cost set has certainly appreciated a lot. And I know that there is a very substantial bill still due from this year. And I think it's really worthwhile considering both sides of that equation. I do think we need to grapple with the bill that is still due for this last fall's Bruin Bash, which is quite a bit. And if you can book the artist, your fiscal year ends July 31st. So, if you can cut a deal and secure an artist before the 31st of July, that is feasible. What you can't necessarily do is constrain the next council and how they're going to spend the money that they're going to have. There may be an opportunity for you to say, as an inter-council communication, look, we set aside $60,000 intending for it to fund Bruin Bash next year. And and believe that they would keep faith with you and the student body and would then earmark that. So I mean, there may be some way for us to do that, but I think that the first thing we got to make sure we do is deal with the bill that is open for this year's Bruin Bash, and then start to conceive, as you're trying to do, get ahead of the curve and talk about next year. So I'd love to sit down with you and with Alicia and talk about planning for next year. I think that's a great idea to try to get ahead of it.
Thank you.
Anna?
Hello. So I guess my question about surplus would be how we plan on distributing it, in the sense of like what's the process going to be presentation wise and like establishing that.
So I would defer that to Carl and council, because it's really for you guys to decide your method.
Yeah, and so I was gonna say, and this is something we'll talk about a little bit more. It kind of depends on the specific initiatives, right? So, historically, there have been council members that wanted to pay people in their offices using surplus, right? Especially the 8 offices that don't get a lot of money, right? Including the gen reps, president's office, stuff like that. So, if you want to pay your office, obviously, like there's certain ways you go about it. Honorariums and things of that nature, and other ways that doesn't overburden SGA, because there's so many individuals that typically are supposed to be getting paid through this, right? When we want to pay our staff, but for like regular, and I think Anna also means like just regular initiatives, right? So let's say a council member gets let's say CEC, right? They get money for the artist. How would they get that payment? Like, would it be a check? Would it be just, I think that's what Anna's asking as well. Is that what you're asking, Anna?
Kind of. I think I'm asking more like the programming aspect. Like, for example, if we wanted to give out like, no, I mean like, I'll give an SWC example, but like if we have like basic needs, and they like want to be able to provide additional, like if they need additional funding for students.
So once you guys decide how you want to allocate your surplus and what programs you want to fund, assuming that they are fundable, right? And we'll try to make sure we give guidance if there's something you want to do that we think cannot be paid with these funds. But once you earmark the program, then we will work. It'll work a lot like any other funding body and an allocation it makes. It would be an allocation that came with certain sort of rules here, that it's an allocation to accomplish X purpose, and it would be earmarked in an appropriate SGA account and given a account number for that money, and it would be in there as the budget line item. And then as long as a cost was brought forward by the designee for executing that program, and it was consistent with council's approval of what the council approved to occur, then the money would be dispersed.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Sarah?
Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm on duty. My question was, how much is typically, like, what is a responsible amount to put forth back into the endowment? Like, is there a typical amount that council has previously left for that, or is it really fully up to us?
Well, that's a great question, and thank you for asking. It hasn't existed for so long, and we don't always, have a large surplus that it's eligible for. Let me make sure I give you good information. So, we're going to know when you guys set the date that you want to begin your council deliberations on how you want to account your funds, and we'll make sure that we bring forward, the previous history of when and how much money was put into the endowment, and perhaps the relationship of how much surplus existed that year and how much money went into the endowment, to inform you properly with that information. Because I want to be on the fly with it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Roy.
Does anybody else have any other questions? All right. If you think of some, put them in the chat, raise your hand. But yeah, so basically what we're looking to do here, this is already, it's a little later than, normally expected, I guess. And as stated before, I know Josh was, waiting for his portion of it so he can continue the amazing work that he's been doing. So what I want to do is give council, I want to, have this whole thing figured out within the month, right? So if, individuals, from this day, if you can start, getting your own initiatives together, right? Start figuring out, what would you like to request and what would you like to use it for? Obviously be cognizant of other council members. We're going to have a discussion about this so that we all can kind of like work with each other to make sure that this money is used the best way possible. Some recommendations, as I stated before, a lot of council members, especially the 8 offices that don't get a lot of money, this is their time where they really, put together initiatives and, use some of this money to pay individuals in their office that normally don't get paid. I will caution you, obviously be very careful the way you put your PowerPoints together, right? Because if it's misinterpreted the wrong way, obviously, student body's gonna interpret it the way they want to interpret it and hold you accountable. But we'll discuss this more in depth. We'll work with each other to make sure that, we, get the endowment, figure that out, and then also figure out, everything else regarding specific initiatives. Okay. Keon, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, so a little confused. So are we gonna wait for a certain date, like a month, and then everyone brings their initiative, or is it like a rolling basis?
I would recommend, so what I want to do is, so Roy, could you pull up that part that's restricted per the bylaws real quick?
Yeah, Jessica, you got that?
All right, so
Yeah.
this bottom part, wait, no, can you
The
go
bottom
back?
part,
Dan?
Jessica.
The bottom part, Jessica, to the 150. Okay, so listen, so you see the 150, right? The total remaining surplus allocation available for allocation per USAC bylaws restricted to surplus. So this is the amount that we have to approve, but we're only doing it, we're doing it's like a formality thing, right? So it's already per the bylaws, this money will go to these specific initiatives. Okay. So we'll literally just be doing a formality vote, right? So I want to knock that out next Tuesday because it's a formality thing. It shouldn't be a point of contention. It shouldn't be a point of issue. Like we need to go ahead and get that to BOD so that they can start issuing that out and the other programming aspects of this and figure out the endowment aspect. Well, I just saw that that might have to be a longer discussion as well because it does have the endowment part. So we can have a meeting or something like this weekend. I would like to get that part, I would like to go ahead and knock that part out because it's the formality thing. And then the rest of the surplus, right? The remaining, which is the 746, that will be the amount that different council members can, hey, this is my initiative, this is what I want to do. And then all the council will come and give their presentation. So what we'll do, like I say, I want to do this. I want to do the vote by the end of the month, but the presentations can be on a rolling basis. Okay. So if someone already has an idea that they want to present, next Tuesday, obviously you can come and present it and then we'll take that into account and, or whatever. But the final vote would be by the end of this month. And if we get it done before then, right, if every council member gets their initiatives in and you come to council, 2 weeks from now or a week from now, and you have all your ducks in a row and we're able to, put these ideas and exchange ideas and bargain and stuff like that, then, we can knock it out in a week or 2 weeks. But I just want to give council members time to digest this and kind of look through it and also, kind of plan it out because I know this is a lot of information. Roy, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to emphasize that I think, Carl, that's really good guidance to try to make sure you sew this up as quick as you can, but spend enough time, because what I found in the past is if we don't give enough time for you to implement your programs, then it potentially just becomes more surplus for the next year, and it becomes a snowball that just keeps getting bigger. So, the quicker you can move through it, the better your chance to implement your programs and to get them in place. I think that's really good guidance. And yeah, I didn't mean to throw you off. We could almost just eliminate that line that says endowment. It doesn't have to be there. It's just we recycle this basic format every year. So you don't need to hold up if you want to, because the sooner you vote on putting that money into BOD programming fund and contingency, and also capital contingency, it allows Josh and BRD to know how much money they have and to be able to act informed by how much money they have. Also, they're at liberty to lobby council to supplement that, but this is kind of a base level that you should be able to get out the door pretty quickly without having to worry about it too much. And if the last thing, if I could say, Linda and I really appreciate, what really has been a lot of patience, in the government for, the struggles and trying to, wait with us as we, get through this, and it is really appreciated. I know, and Linda knows what a burden it is on your offices. You only have so much time in your office, and you support a student community that has a lot of needs. So we're really cognizant of that and really appreciate your patience, and really believe that we're ready now to really engage everybody's office and make sure everybody knows how to, hit this ground running and know how to spend their monies and know what budgets they have. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, yeah. So, if we get rid of the endowment line, then obviously the other aspects of that 150 that's up there currently, that's a formality vote, which, I want to knock that out Tuesday unless someone has any questions, concerns. But obviously, I want to give you guys some time to kind of look over the whole thing. The rest of the money obviously is like your initiatives. What I recommend is, if you have an initiative, I would, put together your initiative, reach out to other council members behind the scenes and like show them like, hey, this is my idea. Like, this is what what are you thinking? Like, how would you, potentially vote against this, so that it can give you some feedback. I've learned that like, a council member's first time hearing about your stuff at USAC, like USAC Live is kind of like, whoa, what? Like, you want to do what? So you don't want to be embarrassed. So I recommend that, like, hey, if you have an idea, if you think it's a great idea, that's fine. Just run it by other council members who are going to vote on this, and just ask them like, hey, what are some ideas you think I can make this better that you could support, right? That you could vote yes on. So that's my recommendation. Keon?
Then do we vote like completely to like strike the bill, or can we vote like if someone applies for like, let's say $100,000, do you just vote yes or no? Can you vote, let's give them 80? How is that?
Yeah, we can do that. Historically, Roy, you can speak probably more to this, but historically that's how it's been. Yeah, you can say, well, hey, I don't feel comfortable giving you this much, but we would like to give you this much. Or there have been ideas that have been just completely like, no, we're not giving money to this at all. So yeah,
I think you're exactly right, Carl, that, some things maybe are not, you don't want to choose to fund, and some things you have absolutely that flexibility to say, because you're choosing amongst competing ideas, and you want to give a fair hearing to all what are probably going to be a bunch of great ideas, and you only have so much money. You got quite a bit, but I mean, you also got quite a bit of need in your community. So
thank you.
Exactly. Does anyone else have any other questions while we got Roy here? He's a very busy man, so I want to make sure we use him while we can. All right. If not, obviously, just take your time, do your due diligence, digest these numbers. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm not the most knowledgeable on this. Roy just, updated me a lot on this. So, he can break it down for you. But yeah, start getting your initiatives together, start figuring out, what are those things that you wanted to do in your office that you couldn't do because you didn't have funding, or what are some things that have been lacking because of a lack of funding, and start putting your initiatives together and, just kind of, work your way through it. So yeah, Roy, if you don't have anything else, Linda, Roy, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for all the work that you've been doing behind the scenes.
And thank you. And I'm not leaving. I want to see what the rest of the meeting's about. I love hearing what you guys are all doing, so I'm not going. I'm gonna stay. All
right, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, next up, we have an appointment for Student Risk Education Committee. Elizabeth Lee, this is a consent item. So if no one has any, Juan?
I just have a quick comment on this appointment. I'm not sure if I can make it. It's a quick little blurb. My predecessor appointed me to this committee, and she said, prepared a little speech for me. And it's a little tradition that I would like to carry on. So it's going to be super quick. So Elizabeth Lee is a second year pre-cognitive science major and has stood out among our CSC staff members, showing strong dedication and leadership within the commission. She's currently on our internal programming committee, where she supported the planning and execution of the volunteer day that happened in the fall quarter, the biggest volunteer day in the history of the nation. And also the nonprofit networking night that happened last week. Through her passion for public health and interest in learning more about the funding mechanisms at UCLA, it gives me the absolute pleasure to nominate Elizabeth for the Student Risk Education Committee, where I'm confident she will advance the campus resources for a student body and foster the change for the grander LA community. Witnessing her growth within the last few months has really made me immensely excited for the leadership opportunities that she's going to be taking on. And with that, I will end my quick little comment about Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Juan. Okay, this is a consent item. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or objections about this appointment? If not, then it is approved. Thank you. All right. Next up, we'll get into it. We have officer reports. So this week, individuals from my staff met with career counselors to request request more counselors to be there in regards to just demographics and different interests. We are finishing up the planning for our presidential banquet. So I'll be having a presidential banquet. I'll invite, obviously, all of you are invited as well if you want to come. But the point of this banquet will be to, get like a very, get all the presidents from all orgs on campus, or at least a decent amount of organizations on campus to come and kind of fellowship together and just network. And also, for me to talk to them about, diversifying the organizations. There's a lot of organizations on campus currently that have like a monopoly on internships. So I want to make sure that we're working on, making sure that we diversify those groups. So that's one of the main causes of me planning this presidential banquet. We brought on 15 new interns and did their orientation and met with transportation to inquire about decreasing commuter parking spaces. This year, parking passes actually increased because of like state laws. So we're working to see if we can kind of, mitigate that increase and maybe even decrease it a little further. So we'll figure that out. Yes, Giovanna?
I'm sorry, I pressed the wrong key.
Okay, no problem. All right, and then last, we wrote a statement regarding the Tyree Nichols murder, which was very horrific. And we're in the process of posting that. If you as council would like to put one together, we can do that as well. And I guess the final thing that we're doing is currently I'm putting together a committee regarding the current CPO situation. It's going to be a committee made up of past presidents, mother org individuals from mother orgs, individual students that work within CPO, and just neutral individuals who have, maybe experience in regards to funds and auditing and things of that nature, but have no experience in regards to the whole situation that's currently going on. I would like to, wrap this situation up or figure it out within the next 2 to 3 weeks in regards to, our council having a stance on the issue officially. But, the main point of this committee, honestly, is to, kind of create a bargaining document to kind of get, to kind of move forward, right? With this situation, right? And you will see what, moving forward looks like, right? That's why we're bringing this committee together. And, so far I have Sarah and Eliana who've reached out. They want to participate. I appreciate you. Anyone else who would like to participate from council, you can. I would like to have like probably 1 or 2 more spots for council. But yeah, we'll definitely keep the council updated on that. Eliana, you got a question?
Thanks. Thank you, Carl, for your hard work on the CPO committee. Just want to ask what it's going to be like, what the time commitment's going to be in particular, because I have a time with other council members who I think would be interested and good for the committee, but need to know the time commitment.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is, I'm thinking that maybe this committee will last maybe 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to have some, and obviously some intense discussion. So I'm thinking maybe 3 to 4 meetings where it's like maybe 2 hours a meeting, maybe if that that's the time I allocated for. But it'll be, like I say, it'll be, trying to wrap it up, this quarter, to draft a document going forward of how we're going to figure out the situation. And it'll probably be some long meetings, right? So because this is something that not only involves the administrative aspect of funds and funds that are sent to CPO, but it also involves, the emotional aspect, right? And so we're going to have different opinions in the committee, which, I'm fine with having, but I just want to make sure we come to a consensus that will be reasonable. We're not going to make everybody happy, obviously, but I think a reasonable consensus of this committee, I think that's the end state. So yeah, 2 to 3 hour meeting, maybe like once a week, to kind of draft and figure out the situation and go forward. Does that answer your question?
That I think that does. Appreciate it, Carl. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
No problem. And if council members have individuals that they want to have on this committee, please send them my way. I will, for full transparency purposes, I'll be letting council know who's all on the committee. And Giovanna, I'll be letting council know who's all on the committee. And yeah, so there's that. All right, next up we have wait, I'm sorry, Danielle, you have a question? Whoa. I mean, yeah, they can be, definitely. Yeah, because this is definitely going to involve them. So going to reach out to them as well. I haven't sent the email reaching out. How I'm doing it right now is I'm drafting the email, I'm getting the committee together, and then I'm going to send an email as a formal invitation to the committee, and then they can choose to accept or not accept. So yeah. All right, next up we got internal vice president.
Our big ones. But last week on Wednesday, we had our off-campus housing fair, and it was the first time that it's been in person since 2019. So I'm really proud of my directors for navigating kind of that. It was really successful with many students, like talking to landlords in Bruin Plaza. We're working right now on sending feedback forms to landlords and participants for like the next IVP office and for the next IVP who will be working on this event. Directors are also pulling together like information for future offices just to make this event a little bit more smooth in the future. And then also I'm working to find how find whether landlords have paid.
Yeah. Did Milan's call drop?
I think so.
Okay, let's give it like a minute and then we'll probably have to come back to her.
I don't see her on the Zoom anymore, so I think she might have lost connection completely.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to give it a minute for her to log back on so she can finish. But if not, we'll just move forward. There she goes.
Oh my gosh, sorry, I think I forgot to unmute. That's right.
No, you're fine. No, you were talking, it's just your call dropped.
Oh, sorry, I think my internet's really bad. Where was I again?
You were talking, I remember you talking about something that you did for the first time since 2019, and then it broke up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll start over. That's okay. We held our annual off-campus housing fair on Wednesday, which is the first time that it's been held in person since 2019. So I'm super proud of my directors for kind of pulling that together. I think it was really successful with many students talking to landlords in Bruin Plaza, and then students got information and stuff like that. And right now we're working on sending out a feedback form to landlords and participants just for the next IVP and the next IVP office to reference. And my directors are also pulling together information for future offices. But right now I'm working on figuring out if the landlords have paid for their participation in the off-campus housing fair for our rent relief fund. So I don't know if Jessica or Linda has any updates on that or how I could access the checks that have been sent in. Or I can just follow up on an email afterwards. But
Yeah, send Linda an email so she can check, because we usually get them by mail and then they get directed to her office. So just give her a heads up.
okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'll reach out to you all again about it. And then the next event that we're doing is the True Bruins Raised Awards Banquet, which is scheduled for tomorrow at 6:30. And we're just basically going to present our paper awards to the 10 award winners who won the award this year. We finalized speeches, PowerPoints, programs, and music last night. And then we also, all of the materials that we ordered and decorations came in yesterday as well. The people who are coming will be UCLA Case Management Services, including Karen Monero, who is the person who founded this award in the beginning. And then also we have GSA coming this year, which is a new partnership that we formed for this award. And then my directors are planning to meet prior to the event setup. And then after the awards banquet, GSA will most likely be announcing the winners on their Instagram. So definitely like keep an eye out for who won. But that should be all for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Milan. Next up, we have External Vice President.
Hi, y'all. Sorry, I never say y'all. Hi, folks. Good afternoon. Today or this past week, for BAG, Winter Round 2 apps are due, I think, this upcoming Friday. Scheduled hearings are for next week. We made a SOC graphic request, so be on the lookout for the 6 SOC graphics from this last SOC trip, Students of Color Conference. And we have a scheduled meeting with Poria and ASUCLA this next week. The fellowship had their first meeting last week. There are 9 fellows this winter quarter, which is really cool. And I was able to step in before council last week and say hi. Our orientation for lobby court is this upcoming Friday. So Director of State and Federal team is just prepping for that. Their state is currently working on bills, doing research on bills to analyze for next legislative meetings and rounds of lobbying meetings. We are planning and prepping for student lobby conference, as well as the awards section selection for student lobby conference. I believe the application for UCSA is already out for student lobby conference, and then we are not going to be doing our own. So we'll be posting the student lobby conference application shortly. If you all are interested to going to Sacramento, again, fully funded through EVP. It was a big week again for the local team, and I'm sure you will hear about it a little bit later. But there was a meeting with Michael Beck, who is an UCLA admin, and there's a public comment. So I'm reading Evan's notes. Public comment for transportation needs for UCLA students. And then, yeah, I'll have Phoebe talk about that later if she's giving a verbal public comment. And then lastly, we had a few lobbying meetings on the federal side as well in regards to education and workforce strategy.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Gen Rep 1.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great week 4. So I want to thank Carl for sending out the email for the USAC updates. Because of that, a lot more people have been applying to my office. So I was able to hire a lot more staff, which will make the office work smoother, and hopefully we can get more stuff out. We started a new thing this week where after each council meeting, we're going to be sending out a transparency report through our Instagram, which pretty much just shows what we did in council, what the office has done this week, which would really help students get to know what student government does. This week, I will be having tomorrow, I'll be having a meeting with Vice Chancellor Gordon, which I'm really excited for, about figure out how students can work with administration can work with us. And then lastly, back this week, after popular demand, we were bringing back the free Lyft Safe Ride program. So it's going to be starting Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. If you start the ride from Westwood, or if you're coming to Westwood, the ride will be $7 off. So I think everyone should be using that just to get home safe, and have a great week.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, next up we have Gen Rep 3.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. So yeah, like Kian said, thanks for all for sending out the email. Got more micro grant applications, so should be able to support some more of our awesome student projects. That'll be cool. Also working with All Brains on a neurodiversity and mindfulness event, and I'm working with the great folks on Rise Center who are setting up our event, also our event on dealing with internet overuse and healthy habits, developing healthy habits. So that should be cool, coming up in a few weeks. What else? It's been the main things for today. Went this week, also been working some more on the CAE feedback on the associate director hiring process. Went through some more interviews and sent in my feedback. And thank you, Phoebe and Naomi, for your great work on this, as well as our graduate student counterpart, Emily Brake. Had a great meeting with Alicia, working together on a resolution about accessible education and COVID safety on campus. And yeah, also just shout out to everyone for the birthday, nice birthday wishes, much appreciated. Shout out to my birthday twin and all around awesome person, Thyra Cobbs. And yeah, it's been awesome. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you. All right, next up we have campus events commissioner.
Sure. I usually give a written report, but I'm happy to do one vocally as well. We have a decent amount of events coming up this month. So next Monday, we have a performance and promotion of our Afrofest event happening on February 11th at Royce Hall. The artists are going to be announced by the end of this week. That event on February 11th is like on the terrace of Royce Hall. It should be really cool. There'll be vendors and then a couple of performances, both by students, then NSA's dance team, and then an opener and a headliner that will be announced. So you guys should all come and check that out. That'll be really cool. We also have another concert coming up early March, so March 2nd, which will be in Kirchhoff Grand Salon, but details will be confirmed in the coming weeks. And we have some really cool speaker events coming up as well. So February 13th, we have a sex workers panel in Kirchhoff Grand Salon. It'll be a panel of sex workers kind of talking about their experience in the industry. And then we have another event with to be announced special guest on February 27th. But yeah, definitely just a lot of stuff. Just everything is announced through our Instagram and we flyer a lot. So that's kind of where you find everything out.
Thank you. Next up, we have Community Service Commissioner.
Hi, everyone. So for CSC, last week the deadline occurred. Deadline happened for our CS Transpo Fund. So now our transportation directors and our finance directors are going to be reviewing the applications to make those allocations to those groups that applied, which was open to the entire student community. So that's kind of like one of the just quick updates that I wanted to provide to the student body. We're continuously planning for our impact conference and preparation for that. We have all of the students confirmed, and we're just waiting on booking flights, which is exciting. The next thing that I wanted to update council and the UCLA community on is that CSE is going to be hosting a basic needs town hall on Wednesday, March 8th, which is week 9 of this quarter. And we're going to focus on food insecurity and houselessness. And it's going to be 6 to 8, I believe. I think we are still waiting for room reservation confirmation, but I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. We're going to make a formal announcement on our CSC Instagram, and as well as make a formal invitation to we're going to target outreach to specific student orgs that are working on this issue. And basically the intention of these town halls is to have students who are doing similar or I guess related work to start communicating with each other and have CSC start help build those bridges between student orgs and foster coalition building, collaboration, and all that beautiful solidarity that is very much needed. So be on the lookout for that. Nonprofit networking night last week was amazing. It's a huge success. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Facilities Commissioner.
Hi, sorry, I struggled to unmute my mic, but our committees this week have been up to the Sustainables Committee is having their in-person meeting with UCLA Dining tomorrow to talk about the reusable diningware program. They finally finished the white paper proposal of the program at Ronde, and hopefully tomorrow they'll have more details on how to execute that program. Hopefully this school year, but it depends because I know there's still like a labor issue in dining. Our Environmental Justice Now committee is still working on collecting data from the student body. They're doing outreach to ask student orgs whether or not they'd be interested in ethical labor merch at the UCLA store. Our Bruin Bazaar committee, they are potentially doing some collaborations with zero waste ambassadors, both week 5 and week 6. I think one of them is supporting their surplus stop next week. So that's like a bunch of like furniture, school supplies, just like free stuff, secondhand goods to reduce waste. And then the following week being either a clothing swap or an upcycling type event. And then they're working on planning a student vendor fair next quarter. Our space committee is still working on study nights at either Wooden or Poly. And I know that we just got a quote that came in. So they're just like examining it, working with the committee to see what is best. And the premise of the event is that we'll have like the study spot with UCLA Rec, and it'll allow Bruins to like have an extra study space right before finals, and then hopefully like study breaks can be hosted by other student orgs, so then people can know either more about like other orgs or USAC. And then our Access on Board committee finally started meeting with DCP regularly for MetaMap. So those are going to be Mondays, I think 12 to 1. So if people are interested and available, let me know. I'm sure they could always use more support. And our Transportation Equity and Access Committee, there's 2 things going on with them primarily at the moment. One is the transit referendum that they're trying to plan for to get all students universal transit passes that will like let them use a lot of different agencies of transit for a really discounted price based on the referendum fee. And they talked with UCLA Transportation, and originally the projection was going to be around $15. But I encourage them to potentially look into lowering that just to like account for some students that might not use transit. And now the projection is looking around like $5 to $7, which is a lot lower than other UCs that have like $100 per year, and lower than the graduate students too, which I believe is around $25 per quarter. And then for the follow-up on the resolution from last week, no, not last week, 2 weeks ago, regarding the Sepulveda Transit Corridor. So we did meet with Michael Beck yesterday, and there were some comments in terms of its like student engagement, why Michael Beck is able to write a letter on behalf of the university, even though a lot of the students like might not necessarily agree with his opinion on being mode agnostic. His response was that it would be ideal for council members to get involved in the Sepulveda Transit Corridor for All Coalition, which I'm not sure that our group and Northwestwood Neighborhood Council, because I know they also like communicated not feeling super listened to with this UCLA letter and outreach similar to Bel Air. But encouragement of the Sepulveda Transit Corridor for All Coalition, I know that UCLA Government Relations is coming out with some student ambassadors and might request fax assistance or EDP's assistance with maybe outreaching to students. Yeah, and I think the next council meeting will be a good opportunity to talk to Vice Chancellor Beck and just to understand like to what extent, to what types of issues are often used like a university letter, and like how we can broaden the scope of student engagement overall. So that's like a brief update, but if people wanted to know more, feel free to message me. I can give you some details, or we can have like a one-on-one where I debrief more information.
Thank you. Next up, we have Financial Supports Commissioner.
Hi, everyone. So the Financial Supports Office has been, I just put my computer on Do Not Disturb, so I wouldn't get bombarded. But we had a meeting with Student Affairs today. We had two meetings with Student Affairs, one with the New York Times about the New York Times subscription. So we're just trying to find ways to fund the program at the moment, and sort of just like talking to different entities on campus. And then also we had a meeting with dining today, discuss different ways to make food on campus more affordable for students. I did a Daily Bruin interview just to talk about the resolution that just passed on the Sepulveda line. We also have been, what else have we been doing? Oh, we're setting up a meeting with parking. In the past, FSC has done a raffle for parking, what's the word? Just like to discount the rate of parking on campus. Permits, sorry. It's been a long day. And then in addition to that, we are also working on our last two workshops for the quarter, which are on taxes and investing. And we're working with outside orgs for both of those just to increase outreach. And then I think that's it. And then as always, a lot of the work, or most of the work, is due to thank you, Eliana. Most of the work is due to my amazing directors and all their hard work as well.
Awesome, thank you. Anna, you said you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so yes, I have my written report like normal, and then there's also something else that I wanted to touch on, and it's about the resolution I think that was mentioned that Alicia and Eliana, that you two were working on about COVID-19. I do just want to emphasize that I am currently a sitting member of the Infectious Disease Management Team, which is the Reimagined COVID-19 Task Force, and that I'm the only student that is representative that is on there. So please consult me if you're going to be writing a resolution, especially if you plan on bringing it to USAC. I've mentioned it multiple times on Slack and in the Zoom chat. So just putting that out there verbally now as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have our newly sworn in transfer student representative, Tyra.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I've been dealing with a lot of the logistical things. So I met with Jessica and Linda yesterday to discuss like my role as this TSR and like what's expected of me. And we also went over the budget and the different things that I can allocate that budget towards. I've been working with Jessica and Carl Osco to complete my hiring paperwork and to get my card coded for the office. I'm now working to schedule meetings specifically with the Transfer Student Center, the Transfer Success team, and my sole advisor. I've also continued my planning for the Blackburn Transfer Extravaganza. As of right now, I know that the UCLA, like the general transfer day for UCLA, falls on May 13th, but I have a vision to allow Blackburns to stay overnight and have that from May 11th to May 13th. On May 12th, I'm planning to collaborate with MECHA, the Latinx Mother Org, to have an Afro Latinx transfer day. And so I am meeting with Mecha later this week on Friday to discuss that further. I also wanted to mention it specifically for that, since I plan to have overnight stay, and I don't know if UCLA is willing to offer overnight accommodations. I might need to rent out hotel rooms and get transportation for students to do that. And so if anyone has any recommendations of grants that I could apply for to help me with that budget, please shoot that my way. That would be great. Tonight I went to the first Transfer Leadership Coalition meeting, which was at 6:30. I got to meet with the co-president, Sydney Pike and Carly Hong. They seem like they're really passionate and really driven to improve transfer student life at UCLA. So I'm really excited to be working with them throughout this quarter and the next. And so I'm also going to see if I can plan like a joint meeting with them and the Transfer Student Center so that we can have like a centralized communication with each other and make sure that we're doing things in unity and solidarity. Also, I would like to send out staff applications for my office. And so I was wondering if anyone had like a template or something that I could look at so that I can kind of emulate that and use that in my own application process. And also if any offices has any spare volunteers that they would like to share with me until I can get myself up and running with the staff applications. In terms of like work that I want to start coming out of the office, I want to see if I can start having meetings with all the different transfer orgs. Kind of like how we have this meeting here with we have all the different offices, but it would just be me spearheading and then bringing all the transfer orgs into one space. I don't know if there's something like that, but I would like that just so I can, for my mental well-being, just have everybody all in one space so that I can ask like, what are these different concerns that you guys have? What do you guys want to see from my office? Since last quarter, I have been planning suicide prevention workshops at the Transfer Student Center. So now as TSR, I would like USAC to be a part of that. I'm working with a UCLA alum. So I also have a meeting with him this week. And I would like to get a kind of like a honors tab agreement for the Umoja Scholars Program and the Puente program at the community colleges. So essentially, it would be like if you're in these programs, if you participate in Umoja and Puente at the CC, your chances of getting into UCLA would be much higher than if you weren't in these programs and you were just a regular transfer student. So those are two things I would like to work on, and those are my updates for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Glad to see you hitting the ground running. All right. Next up, we have International Student Representative.
Hi everyone, good evening. So for starters, this week we're setting up a meeting with Ash Center, specifically to work on the entire thing about our website and that guide and just kind of get their inputs to finalize and add on to what we have already done. Then this last week we had the housing fair organized by Milan and her lovely office, and I just wanted to say that it turned out really beautifully because like a lot of students reached out to us via our social media because we'd been promoting it and said it really helped them. So I think that's really great. And thirdly, we've been in conversation with Kimber Health. I managed to get in touch with someone else from the organization, and we're having a back and forth right now about what can materialize into a good insurance plan for an international student. But we're looking at that, and then we're considering also if that materializes, we'll probably put it into our guide so students have more opportunity and resources to just look beyond the UC ship and understand the insurance system over here. After that, we're meeting with the Iswell committee again this week or probably next week and just figuring out what needs to be done. I think after the entire shootings and stuff, like they already increased hours for CAPS and specifically for international students, but like there is a lot more that can be done. We're going to be discussing that. And then today from 5 to 6:30, there was a international student session specifically organized by the Dashu Center. They organized a dinner for like 75 people and that went on really well. So yep, that's it for my office this week and see you all next week. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, next up, we have Admin Reps Orlando.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I know it's that midterm season, so I hope you all are, gearing up or holding it, staying in there. Actually, I don't have any updates, so I hope you all have a great day and a great week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know a lot of you were thanking me for the student body email. Orlando helped out a lot with that, so I wanted to thank you for that, Orlando. Next up, we have Jessica.
Hi, everybody. Just a quick couple of things coming up for ASUCLA. We have some Wellness Wednesday programming that's upcoming tomorrow. We're doing a Wag the Dog event, so you can come see cute puppies and get your puppy fix. It's going to be in the South Campus Student Center lawn. So if you can swing by, that's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. tomorrow. And then we also have, other Wellness Wednesday programming every Wednesday. But we're always looking for new ideas of other programs that students want to see. So definitely send ideas our way. And if any of your offices want to co-program with us, I'm happy to connect you with Mary Romo, who's our programming manager. She's great. I know she's already worked with a couple of your offices, but again, I just want to put it out there that if you have ideas for programming you want to see, and you want to co-program with us to bring new exciting events and activities to the student union, let us know. Aside from that, I'm continuing to work with Karen Hedges on going through the appointment system and figuring out how we can streamline that process. And so, Sydney is really working hard on helping to support a lot of that and getting that, documentation updated, working on training for, next council incoming. So hopefully the process goes a lot smoother. So I just wanted to say thank you to Sydney for all of her hard work on that. But also just remind everyone, if anybody has feedback, especially anybody from appointment search committee or appointments review committee, on the online appointment system that you've all been using this year, definitely send them my way so that we can kind of discuss that more. And I see Sydney's hand, so I'll defer to her if she has an additional comment to add.
I also just wanted to say that as we're redoing the website for the committees on student appointees, we were trying to create new bios for each of the committees. So if you know people that are on them, I've been sending out emails to people to see if we can get back little bios from them, because I don't know what all of the committees do. That would be great. So if you could just kind of spread that word.
Awesome. Thank you, Sydney. That's all from SGS.
Thank you. Is Steven here tonight? I don't think he is. All right, Lori.
Hey guys, just two quick things. February 21st, Recreation opens for reservation requests for event spaces, and then March 1st, we open for meeting rooms and dance studios. So if you need space, you know where I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. I see you still. Is that a new hand? Sydney? All right. All right, now moving forward, we don't have any old business. We have new business. So discussion about in-person meetings. Yeah, we were supposed to have this discussion last week, but obviously we had a lot of more stuff that we were discussing, so we went over time. So I guess I'll kind of pop it off. So basically, the reason why I want to have this discussion is because I feel like, what I'm going to do, right? We're going to start hosting, in-person meetings, starting, I think they're available on the 14th, right? And obviously everyone doesn't have to come to them. If you still feel like you want to be online, if you want to, not be in person, that's fine. But I know there are some council members that did express wanting to be in person. I'm not here to influence anyone any way or the other, but would definitely like to move to doing in-person meetings every week starting in spring, or hybrid in spring. Working with Marissa currently. I think she's here as an attendee, and also Jessica. And so we're looking to have our first one on the 14th of this month. So does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this? Okay, awesome. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions about this or any concerns, please reach out. And yeah, we're it'll be a good time. Keon?
Just how is the hybrid format going to work? Like half of us are going to be on one camera, half the people on Zoom. Have we figured that out yet?
Yeah, that's something that we're going to work with Marissa to figure out. We don't know how many individuals, like I said, right now, currently it's bi-weekly, right? So if we can get max attendance, that would be, amazing. That would be great. But also, like I say, I don't want to force anyone who doesn't want to go in person to go in person, especially if they feel like it's, detrimental to their health or something of that nature. But as of right now, can someone promote Marissa so she can kind of speak to it? She's in the attendees. Yeah, Marissa, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet all of you this way. I'm Marisa Osborne. I am the ASUCLA Event Services Division Manager. I oversee the team of reservationists and event managers that host events and meetings here in your student union. And so just kind of as an FYI, in the past, before the pandemic, we would host general USAC meetings in the Bruin Viewpoint Room. This is on A level of Ackerman Union. It's a larger room. We would also have place for when it's open to the public for audience to also view. Someone had raised the concerns in regards to a hybrid meeting. One of the things the pandemic has taught us in events is that hybrid meetings are something that are here and going to stay. So we have procured some technology that can help and assist us with that, and some equipment that we have to be able to facilitate hybrid meetings. We even have this one little cool thing. It's called the owl. It looks like an owl, has little speakers, 360-degree camera on top that can capture and is voice activated. So these are some of the things that we can help and utilize to be able to have hybrid meetings. And we've been utilizing this already. So just to address that. And also too, it's a room that we've chosen in the past, or that council chose in the past, I should say, because of its easy accessibility for all to get to.
Thanks so much.
Does anyone else have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this? All right. If not, obviously feel free to reach out to me offline if you have any other questions about this. Next up, we'll be moving to discussion on how USAC can support SGA. Eliana, the floor is yours.
Hi, thanks. So probably just want to give Roy the floor and see if there's anything you'd like to share about how we might be able to support you. And then we can talk and discuss that. I'm not sure if you need it. I just thought it might be helpful because I know it's been a difficult time for people at SDA and USAC because of all the difficulties in that arena. So it'd be good to come together and be supportive. That'd be nice.
So thank you so much for that, I think, very thoughtful framing and, recognition that this has, really been actually a difficult thing for that team to go through. Where we are now, I think the main thing that I think would really be helpful is, in a sense, I guess something we said before, which is, give us a chance, just recognize that while we may not have been really ready to try to take on some of the issues that we haven't been able to get our attention onto now, that we are now at a point that we can really, I think, address you know, essentially any and all issues, and, you know, don't necessarily hold on to the perception that we're still not able or not moving issues forward. But, you know, bring your issues forward, give us a chance to understand them, make sure, you know, that while we may be thinking we have a handle on all the activity, that now's the time to make sure we surface things. One thing I meant to say before when Linda was here is there are a number of things we believe that are really activity that is from last year, and that in some sense it's what we consider out of period expenses that are, you know, kind of obligations of the association. So it could be, especially where it is a student who has a reimbursement, where they put their own money out there and then they felt caught up in kind of a quagmire of processing, that now we're kind of ready to try to get a look at those things and to make sure, you know, if it was a legitimate expense that was, you know, had proper backup from last year, and it just happens to be last year money, not this year money, that we can and still and should find a way to make sure those things are paid. I mean, that could be a business to business obligation, and that's sober and important. But most importantly, if a student is out there and put money out there, and it was last year, and they got backup, you know, we just need to see it, and we're gonna, you know, make sure they get paid. So again, thank you for the framing of the question. And I think the biggest thing that we need is either taking advantage of setting up a Zoom meeting, if for anybody who's not comfortable, that doesn't have time to get to our Kirkhoff offices. As Linda had said, you know, she's in there pretty much, you know, 9 or 10 to 5, and, you know, we're willing to stay later. I mean, I'm regularly here later than 5. So again, you guys are all, you know, welcome. I mean, I appreciate Carl coming by my office a number of times, and I saw Juan earlier today, to come by and give us a chance to, you know, hear where we are, where we need to get to. Again, JSTA has a history of being responsive and on it, and we're getting back to that, and now's the time. So, I mean, that's the main ask. Give us a chance to hear the issues, because we're ready to hear them and make sure we can work through them, and to communicate that also to your communities, because I know this is not all your offices. This is often a student group that got funding through a funding body, and that may be where the problem is. So, you know, if you have your ear to the ground, you understand somebody in the community, now's the time we're ready to hear it. And the best way is to go up to you know, those offices on Kirkhoff 3rd floor. But also, if they want to set up a Zoom meeting, just reach out to Linda. You know, we're still hiring up more students to work in that office, and we're still going to put on another career person that we're still down one. But we're ready. That's our main ask. The biggest way that you can help is also put that word out to your communities, or your chiefs of staff or finance directors.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Roy. Grateful for your hard work, and thanks for that. That was very helpful.
Sarah?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Earlier this year, I had a conversation with Roy, and we were in his office for over an hour just discussing different USAC things. And he has very much a lot of knowledge and a lot of institutional knowledge that sometimes we students lack just because of the turnaround with USAC and everything. So I 100% recommend setting up a meeting to talk with him over Zoom or in person, whatever you're comfortable.
Yeah, just wanted to second that. Yeah, you know, Roy, you know, came out of retirement to come back and help out, you know, so definitely reach out to him if you have any questions about anything. You know, just from speaking to past presidents, you know, Naomi, Robert, they all, you know, kind of was like, yeah, you know, he's the individual you want to talk to and meet with regarding stuff. So second everything Sarah said. All right. Are there any other points of discussion anyone wants to bring up regarding this? Okay. Well, it looks like we can adjourn this meeting here at 9:05. Good night, everybody.
Good night.